Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. This is, I think, the third session we've had on the proposal for what to do with HES, so I appreciate you all coming. There have been some major changes. Pretty much every time we've had a new information session, there's been new information. That's true here. We'll go over that in a few minutes. But again, thank you for coming. Leon Malarski is at the microphone right now. For those of you who don't know Leon, he is our zoning enforcement officer. He's our acting planning officer while Bill Warner's out hiking the Appalachian Trail. Leon's a practicing architect, has years of experience in construction and the industry. So without further ado, I will turn the presentation over to Leon.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everybody. Tonight we're going to talk about Haddam Elementary School and its future, and the future basically of the town and all of the residents as we go forward. And I'd like to start by a little brief history, a timeline of how we got to where we are today. The HES school, or HES, was constructed in 1948. Its last renovated was 1989, to give you an idea of just how old the school is. The physical structure is still good, but the electrical and mechanical systems all have to be replaced. In December of 2018, School District 17 voted to close HES. In April of that same year, the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed the acquisition of HES and provided a report to the Board of Selectmen recommending the purchase of HES. In May of 2019, the Haddam Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing to discuss the purchase of HES. A referendum was held in June of 2019 where the residents voted to overwhelmingly buy HES. In June of that same year, HES closed. In the June and July of that same year, the town held a survey for the HES community to see what could be done with the facility. In September of that year, the town closed on HES, and the residents of Haddam became the owners of HES. Again, in October and November of 2019, the town held public charrettes, allowing the residents to provide input on what could be the possible uses for HES. Between January 20 and June 22, obviously, with respect to the time that COVID was taking place, the town tried to lease and sell the HES. They applied for 2 community challenge grants with no success. The town is awarded a grant in August of 22 for $480,000 for roof repairs and other site improvements. Then the following year, in May of 23, the town applied for a 3rd community challenge grant to renovate HES for affordable housing and senior housing apartments, a senior center, a community center, and select office space. This is in response to the 2 surveys that took place in 2019, in June and in October. In May of that 23, that same year, roof bids were opened, and the lowest bid for that roof was over $1 million. Before the town decided to spend $1 million on a roof that we really didn't know what was going to take place underneath it, we had to discuss that. And we had a town meeting on June 8th of 2023. During that meeting, many people voiced their concerns and made comments as to what the future use of the school would be. And at the same time, we allowed, or we didn't allow, but we had people filling out index cards of making further comments and recommendations as to what the town, the residents, would do with the building that they owned. In June of '23, the town issues an RFP for a space utilization study. In July of that same year, we issue another RFP for the multi-generational park and playground design to be located at HES. That playground is getting ready for installation as we speak. In August of '23, the town was awarded a $4.55 million Community Challenge Grant for the affordable senior housing apartments, the senior center, the community center, and the select municipal offices. On September 8th of '23, the town issues an RFP to develop HES in response to the grant. It also, with the idea of addressing the concerns of the people of the previous studies. In November of '23, after receiving 3 competitive bids for the development of our piece of property, we opened the bids. There was a panel of several people that did it, and we unanimously chose RAC Realty as the developer for that. In March of '24, we went ahead and did a space utilization study in response to some of the requests and comments of our fellow residents. That was completed by Antonazzi Architects and was presented, the study at the end of March of '24. The RAC Realty proposal was followed, in the following week was presented at a public hearing. The proposal was certainly in response to what we were trying to achieve as a community for use in that school. On June 20, 2024, a public information session was held for the Affordable Senior Housing Senior Center, basically the uses at HES, and the development concepts that were being put forth at that time. Tonight, we're here now as a project summary on how we got here, the economic considerations, and to address any further questions and answers that the residents may have. And then, of course, on July 23rd will be the referendum to vote on the future of HES. So the rest of this presentation is going to try and give you a concise summary of where and how we got here. And for that, we're going to start with the Plan of Conservation and Development, our POCD. The POCD became effective January 18th. The purpose is to set forth the most desirable use of the land and property and to determine an overall plan for the town. The high-level considerations in the report were the adaptive reuse of historic buildings, pedestrian-friendly development, get the center to be more active, redevelop underutilized buildings, housing alternatives for growing population of our aging seniors, business and jobs, keep the central district of our community active, a gathering place for all community members. We also had to consider the infrastructure and community facilities, the development of a public, we had to consider the infrastructure and community facilities, the development of public water supply, development of public wastewater disposal, and to pay attention to a dark skies initiative. A dark skies initiative basically gives us an active center with a low light level so that our town center doesn't look like a shopping mall. And then getting around, pedestrian circulation, improve access to area resources, for example, senior center and a community center. The plan of action in accordance with the POCD was to respect what the residents value the most, invest in a physically sound infrastructure, try everybody to remember that we own this school. And it's been the desires of all of us in our comments and in the research to own it and control it. With that becomes a responsibility. We not only have to create a use for that building that would be fiscally sound, but would be sustainable over a long period of time. We do not want to create something as owners that we are going to have to support because we didn't plan properly, taking into account all the factors that are necessary to make a project like this work. On May 1st, 2019, we had a public hearing. This public hearing was what was going to control the future use of HES. The Planning and Zone Commission, in accordance with the state statutes, had to produce a report that considered the use of HES school and all the factors that would come into play in accordance with the POCD. And they are, among other things, the best future of the property, whether or not the proposed uses add to the vitality of the Haddam Center, tax-exempt uses, which ownership the town or School District 17 would, 1, give the proposed sale, lease, the level of scrutiny it deserves, 2, have the greatest interest in the economic vitality of the Haddam Center, or 3, focus its deliberations on consistency with the implementation of the POCD. The outcome of that result will come under discussion on the 15th, and a letter from the Planning and Zoning Commission, our elected officials, will be presented to the Board of Selectmen with respect to whether or not this project falls under the auspices of the POCD requirements. So, what does the community want? The takeaways. On this slide, you're going to see the summary of 3 surveys and charrettes and meetings. The first was the one we discussed earlier in the timeline, July 2019, with the HES Community Feedback Survey regarding the possible uses. And I will list them. Bring activity to Haddam Center on nights and weekends. Preference to lease the property versus selling it. Support local businesses. Preserve recreational activities. Support the community septic system. Possible public use. Elderly housing. Keep grounds for community use. This is back in 2019. On October and November 2019, when the public charrettes were held, the following are the comments. Preserve the building for civic uses. Community septic systems. Community gardens. Playgrounds. Ballparks. Adult recreational uses. Event space. community theater, community center, pop-up markets, tax-generating uses. A key statement, tax-generating uses. June 8th, 2023, at our open house at HES, these items basically summarized people's wishes from that meeting. Keep in mind, this is 3.5 years later, after the first community feedback survey was taken. I list: bring activity to Haddam Center on nights and weekends. Preference to lease versus sell property. Support local businesses. Preserve community recreational activities. Support a community septic system. Possible public use. Senior housing. Mixed use. Multi-generational activities. Cultural events. Farmers markets, etc. You'll notice in comparing all three of those studies that many of the comments are very similar. And there's a reason for that. We're all of the same mindset that these uses, when combined, could create a sustainable use for that building, that we as the owners would be able to say, okay, we made a good business decision. We have a performing building in the center of our town that brings activity and vitality to a multi-generational set of people. Taking all of the slides and the subsequent into consideration, all of the subsequent research, the POCD, we based the final designs and what we thought were considerations on a wish list of plausible uses as they relate to the cost of creation, maintenance, and continued use, and they are in no particular order. Don't understand that. Anyway, option 1, lease HES to a developer. It incorporates a select town offices, a community center, senior center, and affordable senior housing. The total cost to the town would be $1,400,000, and this will be explained a little more in detail as we proceed through this presentation. The pros are numerous, the cons are negligible. It meets all the guidelines of the POCD. The town retains use of public areas indefinitely. It falls in line with the town resident sentiments. It centralizes community activity. It provides senior housing. It aligns with the state affordable housing mandate, of which I'll ask Bob to discuss a little bit when he gets a chance to talk. But what that means is, because our town is proactive, we've already started to deal with that. And we only have a few choices with affordable housing. And I would rather it be in our control than somebody else's. Provides multi-generational public space and recreational activities in central downtown location. Will create a more active downtown atmosphere. Creates a space for small performing arts activities, contributes to attractive town center, and no real tax consequences to the town. Option 2, which was addressed by Antonozzi Associates with respect to renovating the building and moving all of the town's services, except for the town garage, to that area. Obviously, the cost is very high at $31,970,000. We had to take out the soft costs for all the architectural and engineering, and we end up with an approximate hard cost of $23,977,000. Now, this number may sound exorbitant, and it probably is, but we went to a professional and got his answer, and these numbers are conservative. We will not know the true cost of this until we actually put a performer together, an actual program of what's going to get into that building, how it's going to be built, and the level of equipment and materials that we're going to install in the building. So these numbers are conservative. I think they probably could come down, but I'm not going to give you a low number because we own the building. And the last thing we want to do is get halfway through it and realize we're $5 million short. Everybody needs to realize up front that this is a big undertaking to go to this extent with that building. The pros are a centralized town services, modern community and senior services, renovated facility to a high-end commercial use for town use only. No income producing property. Our maintenance costs would roughly stay the same, but I'll get to that in a second. We would be able to provide room for HK Park and Rec, and also for youth and family services. The cons, obviously, is the extreme construction cost. It will increase the taxes for townspeople. And our maintenance costs, which are currently at $105,000 a year, will continue to accrue yearly and probably cost more in each successive year. Renovation and maintenance costs for the vacant buildings. Once we vacate buildings, we're going to either have to renovate them or put them up for sale in a fire sale. The buildings the senior center is a very small building and it's old. And the town hall, if we move down there, is the type of building that would be very hard to sell and or modify. It is a non-income producing property, as I mentioned before. But the present town facilities use approximately 21,000 square feet of space. By moving over to HES, which has a square footage of about 44,000, we'd only be filling half the building. So we would have to figure out what to do with the rest of it. Option number 3 is to leave HES untouched. Continue to use town facilities as they are. The cost to date since the purchase of of HES approximates $750,000. We as residents have spent 5 years supporting this building, paying for studies, paying town staff to do all these studies and accumulate information with respect to the residents' wishes. And we have no real pros to leaving this the way it is. As a matter of fact, it's really a non-issue. The cons, it goes against the POCD. It goes against recommendations from HES workshops. It goes against the desires of the townspeople. We can look back to the the takeaway slide, which would show all of the wishes of the town residents. The maintenance costs would continue to accrue at $105,000 a year and continue to rise. That $105,000 is a number we just put together based on last year's maintenance alone. And it does not include any major repairs that we might have to do. We'll discuss in a little while. I mentioned a little earlier about the electrical, mechanical, plumbing systems they all need replacement. The major building component, the major building components are on the brink of failure. None of this is in that cost that I just mentioned. The continued activity equals deterioration. We must do something with the building. Non-income producing property, 90% vacant right now. Continued cost studies will only add to the accrued cost that we have presently. And we have a remaining roof repair cost of approximately $600,000. I've been in this business for almost 40 years. And I've seen studies, and I've been on the other side as a presenter. We've had 5 years to decide what to do with this building. And the comments over those 5 years have not changed. It's time for the town, the residents, we the owners, to decide what to do with the property. Would I go by one? So as a proposal here, is that it's on the table, we want to meet the requirements of the POCD, the Affordable Housing Act, the Connecticut Community Challenge Grant, and wishes of the townspeople. We think that the design that's been put forth by the developer meets the requirements of what we tried to achieve as representatives of the owners and as owners ourselves. To recap, a little quick on the trigger. The town of Haddam purchased the Haddam Elementary School on a site of 9 acres for $450,000. It was awarded a $4.55 million community challenge grant that would take into account affordable senior housing, senior center, a community center, town offices. One of the requirements of that grant is it must have a developer. That proposal came in from RAC Realty. And the proposal is to lease the 1989 addition to RAC Realty for 99 years. The town retains ownership of the building and the grounds. RAC renovates and remodels the entire building. RAC pays $350,000 in a lease fee to the town and pays rent of $1 a year for the next 99 years. The town, under this plan, realizes a tax revenue of $100,000 a year approximately. Those taxes obviously coming from the rental space for the senior housing. The other 14,000 square feet, the town will pay $140,000 for 10 years as a development fee, $50,000 a year for maintenance and utilities. The lease can be extended for another 99 years for $1. Under the terms of the Connecticut Community Challenge Grant, the developer must match or exceed the grant amount of $4.55 million at a minimum to participate. Developer's true cost for this part of the project will be about $6 million. And the rough cost for the project, including all the state and town expenses, will be approximately $12 million plus. And at this point, I'm going to turn the mic over to Bob. And thank you very much for having the patience to listen to me. Forward and back. Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm not going to go over this slide in a lot of detail. I know we've thrown a lot of numbers at you already. This presentation in its entirety will be up on the web tomorrow, the town web. And as you've probably figured out, this whole thing is being recorded. And as soon as Valley Shore Community TV turns the recording over to us, which hopefully will be tomorrow, they're usually pretty quick, we'll have it up on our website too so you can review it. So I want to hit the high-level numbers, because what I've seen a lot in Facebook are partial fiscal presentations, not the whole picture. I'm just going to concentrate on what you see there as column one, the first column, option one, and that's basically what we've been talking about. We're going to lease we're going to lease part of the building to RAC. I'll show you those details on a slide in a couple of minutes. We'll retain ownership of the building. We'll retain ownership of the grounds. RAC Realty, well, let me just go down the figures. We're not going to have to pay anything beyond this point for renovation or remodeling under this proposal. RAC Realty will take care of the roof repair, so we don't have any obligation there. As Leon said, RAC will pay a $350,000 buy-in fee to get into the lease. Building permits be somewhere probably about $18,000. Over the next 10 years, the income and expense for the town, we will pay RAC Realty $1.4 million effectively to do the renovation for the town wing for us. The estimate from RAC is the cost to renovate that town wing is about $4.2 million. The estimate we got from Antonazzi Associates was about $9 million. So no matter which estimate you use, we're paying $1.4 million and getting a much larger return. Routine maintenance and utilities, we're estimating about $50,000 a year. That's not payable to RAC as a Facebook post claims. That's payable to Eversource and whoever's doing the maintenance. We're basing that honestly on just cutting the current amounts we pay. I honestly expect the heating bill will be less, but on the other hand, we're going to have central air conditioning or air conditioning throughout, so there's going to be an air conditioning and ventilation bill. They may offset each other. Hopefully for the first few years, since it's all new renovation and new work, there won't be a lot of maintenance other than just routine. RAC will pay property tax, or the equivalent of property tax. It'll be about $100,000 a year, as Leon said, so in the first 10 years, that's another $1 million. So our impact, these next line down, you see $532,000. That's what we've paid for those 10 years of ownership. That doesn't reflect the fact that we're not paying the other $50,000 that we're paying now in maintenance per year. This is the best financial deal we've got of those three options. And then it goes on from there. And you can see the other options we've assessed. If we do the town hall, if you look at final costs there after 20 years, that's at $34 million. The RAC proposal is at $32,000. And let's just keep HES as it is until we can figure out and come to a total consensus as to what we want to do with it. And then we're going to pay for all that renovation. That's about a $25 million nut we'd have to crack over the extended time. All right, this is the site plan that's presented. Again, this is on our website currently. This was what RAC was presenting. I just want to take you through it quickly. We are about to break ground to put a playground in right there in the area the Shad Museum is now. We'll connect to it. That'll start hopefully next week with breaking ground. RAC will be renovating the existing basketball court, also marking it for pickleball, bocce courts, some more pickleball courts, and we're also talking about potentially other recreational activities there. But they'll be responsible for installing those. We'll be responsible for maintaining them afterwards. Just to be clear as to what is leased, that blue bubble, which was me with 5 minutes and a mouse trying to put it on there, you might pick up that it's not to an A2 survey accuracy requirements, but it'll give you a good idea. The blue blob is what RAC is going to be leasing from us. It's the area for the 36 senior affordable housing, and it's a parking lot for them. And there'll probably be some modifications, and we've been talking about sliding the parking lot a little closer, but you get the idea of what it would look like. Again, all of the building, all of the grounds remain in our name. This was done in response to feedback we got at the first session, the June 26th, when there was consensus from a lot of people that they didn't want this building sold. There was also a question of, well, how are we going to guarantee the developer will do what he says? Well, there's no guarantees in life, but if the developer is a tenant as opposed to an owner, we have a lot more control. So this was changed to address those two concerns. A change that hasn't been highlighted yet, in response to concerns on the last information session when we talked about, and RAC after 99 years could buy it for $1 rather. People didn't want to do that, even though none of us in this room are going to be here 99 years from now. So again, we checked negotiated with RAC, we'll just give them the option, if they're around, to renew the lease for $1 at the time, another 99-year lease. We had to run all these changes through the Department of Economic and Community Development. They're the ones in charge of the grant. RAC had to run it through their financing. They had to make sure as a lease they could still get financed. They can. We had to make sure from the state that if we lease it, we're still eligible for the $4.5 million grant. It doesn't have to be a sale. They're fine with a 99-year lease. So these have been developing as we've been getting your feedback and incorporating as much as we can. But again, the blue area is what's being leased. The rest of it is public use, and it's all in our name for as long as, forever, frankly. Floor plans, these are up, actually, these are on the website as well, and also in the town hall if you haven't seen them. But it's basically, the proposal is for 1 bedroom, bedroom and a den, or 2-bedroom apartments. That's what the different colors are. I'll go back to the unmarked slide so you can see clearly what the proposal is for the grounds. And with that, I will open it up for questions and comments. Please come up to the microphone for your comments so they can be recorded for the people who watch this on the session. Other thing I want to say before stepping aside, on our town website, you can find all the documents, all the studies, all the information that we've talked about. Please take a minute to look at it. There are Facebook posts as recently as an hour before this meeting with completely erroneous information. We're not selling the building. We're not paying utilities to RAC or maintenance to RAC. There are a number of things that are just flat wrong on Facebook. I know, everyone's shocked to hear that. I've said, some of you may have heard me say that after reading a few posts on Facebook. I don't believe anything I read on Facebook, even if I wrote it. So please, take a look at the facts and make your own decision. If you're in favor of it, that's great. If you're not, that's great. But make the decision based on facts, not rumors and innuendos that are being spread. All right. With that, I will step back and invite people to come up to the microphone.
Hello. Sharon Bates. I'm wondering why it started off as a sale to RAC and then turned lease.
All right. As I just said, Sharon, it was the request for bid said sale or lease. All 3 proposals that came back proposed buying it. But the feedback we got when we presented that was strongly that the town didn't want it sold, so we were able to convert it to a lease.
Also, what is the proposed income from RAC having these senior center affordable housing?
The income to RAC?
Monthly.
Okay, I couldn't tell you because I don't know. These have to be affordable housing units. So the state sets a maximum of what the rent can be. I don't know what that is, nor can I project what it will be when they're opened.
I think that's important.
But it's probably in the area of $1,500 an apartment. Don't quote me, but it's a ballpark.
Okay.
But also understand, and this is another thing that's wrong on Facebook tonight, when we talk about property tax, we all think, okay, it's based on like our house. The house is worth so many dollars, 70% of that is the assessed value, the taxes are based on that. For most commercial property, which this will be treated as a commercial property, the part that RAC has, it's not based on the value of the building and the land, it's based on what they call net operating income. Because that's the purpose of a commercial property, is to produce an income. So the more income you make from it, even without changing the building at all, the more the taxes will be. The $100,000 we're estimating is based on what we were expecting they might get for income for the units. And as that goes up, obviously the property tax goes up.
I would like to ask you where you think that people should discuss all of this in the town of Haddam. I think Facebook, number one, is basically an open forum. And we all know we can take things as salt, but it's also a place to voice an opinion. And there's always a silent majority and a vocal minority. So I personally take offense at the way that you discuss Facebook, because I think we're all intelligent people here. The other thing is, with the town of Haddam, it just seems that you came in, or the town came in, with one thing, and then we see another thing, and then it morphs with legalese and verbiage. And it makes a slippery slope, and it doesn't give a lot of confidence in any of this. And I think I heard, and I know a lot of people voiced no housing in the center of Haddam. And I am definitely for no housing, affordable senior or anything, because we have enough housing in this town. This is not for the seniors of Haddam.
Can I answer that?
Viv, even though you're my wife, actually, you're my wife and I love doing this. No, never happened before. But yeah, we had not this past Saturday before at the farmer's market, a couple, because I had the display boards there with the rack proposal, the floor plan you saw, and also this one behind me. And they're middle-aged or younger. They were very interested in the proposal because their parents are looking for a place to downsize to. Parents don't live in town, I'll say that, but they would love to have them move here. And I have talked to a number of seniors who would love to downsize and stay in Haddam. The senior center director has gotten the same feedback. There are seniors in town who don't want to be burdened anymore with maintaining a large house and are looking for housing.
Bob, I'm at the microphone here.
No, Sharon, you asked you to challenge. I'm answering your question. Now, finally, and I don't see why people who are against housing are so upset with this. You all have if that is the true sentiment of the majority of the town, it'll come up at the vote, and we'll drop this proposal and move on.
That's very true. I think it will come up on the vote.
One way or the other, yes,
That's right.
it will.
Alex Marconi. So I didn't grow up in Haddam. I moved here about a year ago with my wife. So with an old school and lots of towns in Connecticut are dealing with this, what do you do with it? Really, it's apartments or senior housing, or bulldoze it. My town bulldozed my middle school and my high school because they didn't know what to do with it. And that's probably going to be the future of Hess if we do nothing, is eventually it's going to get bulldozed because it's just not going to be worth hanging around to. So I think you came up with a good creative solution, Bob. My question really is, how does we get to 32 million for town offices and 12 million for RAC? That's a huge difference, and I would think what RAC's doing building 30 apartments would actually be more expensive than town offices. Any insight?
No. To be quite honest, no. I can't explain the difference. Some of it is municipal and government projects just are more expensive. To that extent, I don't know. But I will put out as a comparison, Antonazzi estimated, and Leon has already hit on it, to put the town office, renovate this for town offices for new town hall would be about 32 million. 6 years ago, East Hampton did their Nathan Hale and converted that to town offices. That was 16 million. Honestly, when we asked Antonazzi to give us an estimate for making this a town hall, I was expecting the mid-20s, and that might be more accurate. But the point is, it's a bunch of millions.
And,
That mic should be on.
You have to understand the building types that you're discussing there. Antonazzi's costs and estimates are based on a commercial design. The mechanical systems alone would quadruple or even 5 times the cost of anything we're doing. By us creating 36 housing units and 14,000 square feet of commercial space, we can downsize the mechanical systems. They don't have to talk to each other. They don't have to communicate. And as you well know, if you're building a small apartment or a house, you can go to mini splits, more of a downsized piece of equipment, whose cost is considerably less. So then you can also talk about the types of finishes that go into a commercial building versus the types of finishes that go into residential and even our office space. One of the things we've requested of the developer is that we have a say in the design of our space that we're going to occupy for the community center, senior center, and the select town offices. We want that to not be so much commercial, but to have more homey feel, so that when we go there and we're visiting or we're partaking in a community activity there, it feels a little bit more like we're going home somewhere and instead into a stark construction that's made to take a serious amount of abuse. So it's a much higher level of product that goes into the building, but your big expenses are going to be in your mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems, fire alarms, sprinklers, interconnections. Everything has to speak to each other. Everything is computer controlled. You have to worry about fresh air makeup and how you're dealing with the people that are inhabiting that building. There's a lot that goes into it. So it's a big difference as to what we're doing with what we're trying to do, and that would be the biggest difference in the cost.
And my last question is, did the town give any thought into us being the landlord of senior housing? Doing basically what RAC is, and then we would collect the income from the rent?
I can't say we gave it serious thought. I have some concern it's going to raise additional costs for the town, because now you have to have people who manage that and do it professionally. To me, there's a couple of considerations. To me, I think a private entity would be better. Private entity also has a little more flexibility on to whom they rent it and to whom they say no to, and it's easier for them to evict tenants that are not complying as a rule. But the other thing in this situation in particular, this grant requires partnering with a developer. It's a common state requirement for their grants these days, because they want to make sure the project moves forward. So could we eventually do that and manage it ourselves? We could if we want to go that route, but we don't get the $4.5 million assistance to do that.
Thanks, Bob. Overall, I think it's a nice job.
Thank you.
Good evening, Bob and all. I live in the house here in Higgin. Many years ago, back in 1977, when I met my wife and we got married, and we're looking for a house. I can remember at Pratt & Whitney, where I worked as a maintenance electrician, the guys up in there, well, you're going to send your kids to private school? No. He said, well, you better get out of Middletown because the schools are no good. Because I hear today they're not much better. But anyways, we looked around, and somebody suggested out here in District 17, my wife and I, we drove around, we saw the new high school and stuff like this. We fell in love with the place. So we bought a house up on there on Killingworth Road, where the herb shop used to be, the tea shop. And we're still there. I like it, but there is a lot of work to start doing it. In the last meeting when we had at the Haddam Elementary School, there was a woman came up and was saying, well, who would want to live in here? And I raised my hand. I says, I would. Not now, not probably when they build it, but if I wanted to downsize into a smaller house, and yes, there's a lot of houses around, but not a lot of them are affordable for senior citizens. I said, I would love to get a place in here, because then I can walk down to my favorite place to get my lottery tickets and stuff. And then you got the restaurants there, and you got the post office you can walk to, you got the pharmacy, all within walking distance and stuff like this. So in that sense, I would love it. And I've spoken to other people with that idea. They think it would be great. And it would be something that would be affordable. And as Bob had said before, because of state laws, we can't make it just Haddam's Senior Center, but when they first open, we'll make sure the word gets around to Haddam, Higginham, Haddam Neck and all that, so that we citizens here can get first dabs and eventually. So I think it's a very good idea having this senior citizen affordable act as well as the whole project. I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just, because that comment has prompted another. Mike, were you in line?
Yeah, but
Okay, but let me just talk for a minute on affordable housing, Sharon. Affordable housing is a need in the state for all people, not just for seniors, but affordable housing is a big need. The state is making some serious pushes to require towns to develop affordable housing. This is a step. As part of this mandated requirements for affordable housing, every municipality had to have an affordable housing plan. We do. We have committed to the state in the next 5 to 10 years to have 35 or so affordable housing units. Again, not necessarily to seniors, but overall. This plan will help us meet that. I can tell you, if you follow the legislature, not the short session, but the long session last year, there were some pretty draconian bills presented to force towns to develop affordable housing. The state's going to force it, or we can get out in front of it. And this is a good first step. But I will also fully acknowledge we need affordable housing for all, not income level, but for all age levels. You know, this affordable housing honestly is now more accurately reported as working force housing for the most part. It's housing for the nurse, housing for the clerk in the hardware store, housing for our kids who have graduated college and want to come back and can't afford to buy a house. So there's going to be a big push for affordable housing. This is a step, but it shouldn't be the end one.
Why wasn't affordable housing put on over with the other apartments that were built?
Because we can't force the builders at this point to do it. If a builder has state money involved, and this was part of when the discussion we talked about Rossi and apartments there, state grant was involved in that. 20% of the housing units, the apartments, had to be affordable. But for private projects, there is no way to require that currently.
How do you, Mr. McGarry, give first dibs to the Haddam residents to move into the proposed senior housing? I think that's an impossibility. And I would like you to explain how you do that.
Okay, well, one, we don't. RAC Realty does. And it's a matter of where are they going to market and when are they going to market.
Oh, so because RAC is here in the town, they're going to...
I am saying RAC has the option of advertising it first right in town before they go beyond.
Does that go with Connecticut state laws?
It's
for
nothing again.
affordable?
Marketing isn't an issue for that. The issue is once you have the applications, you can't put them in a pile of, okay, these are the Haddam ones, these are the not Haddam ones. We're going to go through this pile first and pick the ones we want. And if there are any left over, then we'll pick from some of these. You've got to consider all those applications that you're considering at one time.
So you're going to have RAC look at all the Haddam
The
applications?
proposals
first.
we've had for RAC, and I can't force them to do it, but they've been agreeable so far, is they will market it first in town. They're going to, I will admit, they are going to fill empty units with somebody they think is a good tenant. And it may be somebody from town, it may not. Quite honestly, I don't see a whole lot of demand that people are going to be coming from Willimantic or Litchfield Hills to come to Haddam, but they might.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I would expect most people moving into senior housing want to stay in the area they are.
Oh, I would too, but I don't think that's going to be truly reliable.
Again, I'm not saying all units will be filled with seniors from Haddam. That would be foolish of me to say.
Oh, all right. Another thing, with the maintenance that
Yes.
we are paying,
Yes.
we're paying maintenance on what? Is it the land? Is it just the building inside, like sweeping the floors? What is the $50,000 maintenance cover?
That is our estimate is that is primarily maintenance on the part of the building we are using.
Okay.
RAC is responsible for maintaining the grounds that they use, which would be the parking lot, basically, and the part of the building they are occupying.
So all the grass and everything else we maintain?
Yes,
Okay.
because that's available for public use.
And that's 50,000 a year?
No, the 50,000 is what we're estimating on the building. The grounds, I don't have a good estimate for.
Oh, all right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mike Karam, just a question on this part that we would own. I've been thinking a lot about the original intent of the ground when it was donated, back in the 40s, I would imagine, and the use of education. So one of my questions is, could the community center be expanded at all to accommodate the arts and some of the things that I've seen around the Blue Fire stages being taken, their space being taken? Is the community center able to be expanded and able to accommodate those types of things so that the original intent of the building could still sort of, live and breathe in this new form?
Okay, well, to the original deed that transferred this property to the town, there's some rumors floating around, and I can understand where they started, that it was for a school. It had to be a school and education use. Actually, that's not accurate, not entirely. The requirement was that the town erect a school on the property, and to tear down the Union School and make that property a town green. When they opened this school, those conditions had been met. So we're not required to keep educational use there. There certainly will be some in the senior center. The auditorium, as most of you I think have been in it, and there's a stage in there, it certainly can be, and Blue Fire does use it for presentations. But for their other support work, honestly, I don't think there's room in this building for it. With either proposal, this or making it a town office building.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, what I started to say is the young couple that approached us at the farmer's market live in Haddam. Their parents live in Naugatuck or something, and they will be downsizing. And this young couple would like their parents to come to Haddam, to be close to them, and live in an affordable housing situation down the road from them. Now, does that make them out-of-towners? Or do they get, do they become in-towners because they have children that live here? I think you need to start thinking a little broader than them and us. The other thing is, the RAC developer that is working on this project also lives in town. So he is not somebody from Middletown.
Sharon, there's somebody already waiting. Please
Oh,
sit down
I'm
and
sorry.
give.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ron.
Come on, Ron. What would you like to talk about, Ron?
You and I go round and round all the time, Bob.
Yep, we've had this exchange many times.
What happens if RAC decides to sell along the way?
To sell what?
So what?
To sell what?
Their- Their section.
They don't own anything. They have leasing rights. They can sell the leasing rights
That's what I
under
mean.
certain conditions.
Now the prices rise, and what happens?
Well, prices rise how?
Okay, just like anybody buys something, instantly up goes the prices. Your affordable housing.
If anyone bought
Takes a
into,
hit.
if anyone bought into the lease, they'd still be bound by the conditions that were on RAC. These would still have to be affordable. Actually, I think by state statute, it may have to be deeded as affordable for a period of time. So somebody could come in and continue what RAC was doing. Somebody couldn't come in and say, okay, I'm going to renovate these apartments and make them all high-end units and charge thousands of dollars. They could not do that.
For how long?
Well, the lease term is 99 years.
No, but as far as RAC raising prices or whatever,
That they've got to
99
be
years?
affordable. It's going to, in the lease terms, with this is affordable senior housing for the 99-year term of the lease.
and I'm with Sharon, there's no guarantee that anybody, I'm well overqualified as a senior, believe me. There's no guarantee that anybody is going to get in there that's a senior. RAC is in the rental business. They're going to put it on the open market.
Okay, I can guarantee the people who get in there will be seniors. I cannot guarantee they'll be from Haddam.
That's correct,
But
Bob. I'm with
I
you on
find it
that.
hard to believe that every unit every time is going to be sucked up by somebody from out of town. It may be, but also keep in mind, if our seniors don't want to avail themselves of this, part of the advantage of this is, even though I know some people don't want more housing in the center, is if we want to revitalize that center and support the businesses we have and hopefully incent others to open new businesses, we need people and activity.
Communities.
If you want to raise tax revenue, we need an industrial park. They make a lot of money.
Yep, and I would agree with that.
Thank you, Bob.
Good evening, I'm Sherry Chuba, and I just want to congratulate Bob and Bill Warner and all those who worked on this plan. I think it's phenomenal, and I love the idea of leasing the senior housing. I talk to seniors, I'm a senior, and there is really a need for senior housing, and I think it's a great idea, and I just applaud you for all the great work you've done.
Thank you, Cheryl. Yeah, and I'll say a number of seniors want to stay, most of us probably say we want to stay in our houses forever. Unfortunately, for a lot of us, those plans change, and you can't. Or you realize now that you're a widow or a widower, it's a heck of a lot of work to maintain your property, and you'd like to downsize.
Hi, I have a question on the referendum.
Yeah.
I think the wording of the referendum is that we're voting on the proposed lease summary. The proposed lease summary, as I've seen it, is just 6 points. I haven't seen any links to the full lease. Will that be made available?
The full lease will come about after we get authorization to enter into negotiations for it. It will follow the guidelines in those 6 or 10, whatever the main points are there in the lease summary.
Okay. This is the first time I've seen that RAC is only leasing part of the building.
Mm-hmm.
Will that be included in part of the referendum? Because I think that's very important for
No,
people to
the
realize.
wording of the referendum is set because it had to be set. Board of Selectmen had to approve it, and then we had to get ballots done. But the intent is clear, and what we're committing to is RAC is only going to rent or lease. Basically, it's the 1953 edition and the 1989 editions.
Okay, so I've been to almost every informational center, and this is the first time I've seen that. So if I were a voter going in, I would think they were leasing the whole building. So will a diagram or something else be made available to the public as part of the referendum process?
We will have as much, we can definitely have the summary of the key points for us to negotiate. I've already cleared that with the lawyer. I'm hoping we can also put in something like the slide I showed with that outlined the area they will be leasing.
Okay.
I don't know how much we can do without it becoming electioneering.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name's Tim Lucas. I want to say I think this is great. I was a fan when we previously were pitched the sale of the building to RAC. I'm even more of a fan now that it's a lease. I love that the town will retain ownership and control of the property. I think as somebody said a couple minutes ago, Sharon, I think her name was, the town staff has done a phenomenal job with this. I think bringing multiple iterations of the plan to the table, coming and speaking openly to the townspeople, being willing to receive the tomatoes and darts being thrown at you, and still stand up like professionals. I really commend you all for what you're doing. I think this is great. I've been on that side of the podium in these types of meetings, and it's not easy, so I give you a lot of credit. I also think that it's important that people go into this and think about this with an open mind. I'm not on Facebook, so I think I count myself very, very blessed, maybe relieved that I'm not hearing and reading all the hoopla that's out there on Facebook. Sounds like there's a lot of static out there. I'm sure there is. One of the reasons I'm not on Facebook, but I'm not here to soapbox and grandstand. But I do think it's a great opportunity for the town. I think that perfection is the enemy of progress. And if we are constantly chasing perfection and we want to make this the ideal euphoria, It's just not going to happen. We're going to continue, and before you know it, 10 years from now, we'll be sitting here having these same conversations. And I feel like, not to turn this in a direction where I'm going to get tomatoes and darts thrown at me, but I feel like we missed an opportunity with Rossi because we voted that down. We, collectively as a community, voted it down, right? I feel like we missed an opportunity. Hopefully that all the opportunities there aren't gone, but hopefully we can bring that back to the table in some form with a different developer, because that's an eyesore. That needs to be addressed. And I hate to see HES fall into that same category where we're just our own enemy, where we're not letting this thing be developed and seeing progress out of this. So I think that, do you need a doctor? I hear you sighing and moaning from here. It's really disturbing and disrespectful. Yes.
I do need a doctor.
Oh, okay.
I need a mental doctor dealing with you and your life.
Okay. So I think that some of our citizens here are not participating in the open forum in a positive and constructive light. I had one more thought that I just lost. And I think that it's a great opportunity. I think that RAC is great because they're from town. So I think this is a good opportunity. Again, I commend you for the bringing this to the table and continuing to present with open minds and listen to the feedback that we're giving you. I'm fully in support of this. I was before, I'm even more now. Great job.
Thank you, Tim.
Hi. Ooh, sorry. I'm going to step back. I'm Krista Duyard, and I'm one of the founding board members of Blue Fire Stage Company, and I'm also a Haddam resident. And we have been a stage company since 2019, and we've been using HES since the fall of 2019 when we were established. We have been in that space. We paid rent to the town for that space for 2 years, and we've been excellent stewards. And for all of COVID, we were kind of like the only people kind of taking care of the space, washing toilets, replacing paper towels and toilet paper and whatnot. But beyond just the space, what we have been establishing since 2019 is a real community experience. We have, and not just within Haddam and for Haddam residents, we've been bringing people in from other towns into our town. And they're coming in for rehearsals, they're coming in for performances, they're coming to our restaurants, they're using our businesses, they're falling in love with Haddam too, but they are being exposed to this town. And so my comment is like, this proposal, by shutting us out, and we're not the only ones, there are other community groups that use this space, and by only having the cafetorium as the one indoor community space, you're really shutting the door on a lot of other groups that can build this community, that can bring this vitality into Haddam, and that's where my concern is. I think more of this space could be allotted for community use, and that would actually bring more people into the town on a more permanent basis, not just, we've got a bunch of apartments in the center of town, and isn't that cool? Yes, it is, but when you actually have activity around that living space, a vital activity that interplay with each other, you're going to build and grow something even greater. So I think that this current proposal is, yes, and I know you said before, it's not a perfect plan, and I understand that, but it almost just feels like the town's just trying to get rid of this HES albatross that's hanging around our neck. And I think what we need to do is really invest in our people, in our community who are doing the things to build even more community and make Haddam an even more accessible and inviting place. That's all I wanted to say.
All right, thank you for your comments. How many performances have you done in the 5 years?
We do 4 a year, so
So you've done 20?
Yes.
Okay.
Before the mic goes off, may I just
Yeah, let me, Marge, can you give me just a couple of seconds here? Thank you, dear. Okay, and I thank you for the work you're doing. As far as other community groups there, I've said it before, and I know people take offense at it, but by and large, our use, all the activities that are in there, our use of Haddam Elementary has been as a closet. It's a storage space. The library is using it now during the renovation. The Lions have done it. Historical Society has done it. It hasn't seen much, with the exception of Blue Fire, of active use of the space. We're paying a lot for a closet. And I realize the plan doesn't include you. For economic reasons, the developer has got to have a fiscally responsible plan on his end. But there may be other options in town. Thank you for waiting, Marge.
Thank you for hearing me. First of all, thank you for the presentation. I thought it was very well done. I wanted to mention that the Haddam Committee on Aging has supported or written a letter of support for the proposal of the selectmen. And then further, I want everybody to know that there are 1/5 of us in town about that are 65 or older. And many of us who live in larger houses are looking for space that we can move into that has less organizational work to do with, like lawns and repairs. At any rate, I favor the proposal and hope that the town will consider it seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, Marge.
On the voting on the 23rd,
Third, yep.
are we meeting someplace or this,
The voting is just like a regular election. You go to your normal polling place.
or use the machine instead? Oh, okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
they open at 6 o'clock like they always have. They'll be open until 8 o'clock. So it's just like a regular election. And if you can't be here, you can get absentee ballots. Town clerk has them available.
The thing we vote on, is it going to be just this, we vote yes or no, or it would be a possibility of voting the ones at 32 million or the one, just this?
It's just this one.
Okay.
Because this is a decision we have to make now.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think there's enough to say yes or no to a town hall proposal. And the other proposal is we just don't pursue anything. We pursue trying to figure out what we want to do.
Is there still an idea of having some of the property be used as a community for the center or septic system?
Yes, that's still available under this.
Okay.
My name's Takara Malarski. I'm a resident here for the past 13 years. I was just wondering, I'm trying to figure it out on here. The auditorium, what's
Right.
happening with that at the school?
That is going.
Where the Blue Stage Fire Company uses?
Yeah, the auditorium will be fixed up and improved, but it will be still an auditorium. It will still have a stage.
And
The warming kitchen that's attached to it will be enlarged to make it better as a warming kitchen.
okay. And could the Blue Fire Stage Company still rent it and practice there and everything?
They certainly could.
Because I think, senior residents would love to go and watch.
I'm sure.
And we would too. What age group
But-
do you take?
Sorry?
What age group do you take for?
Any ages.
Oh, and my kids would love to do it, so. Okay, I just wanted to make sure they could, groups could still use that. That's
Oh,
all.
yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify.
Mm-hmm.
While it's great to have a performance space, what we actually require on the daily is a rehearsal space and also a space for all of our set pieces, our costumes, that kind of thing, which is what we have in the downstairs portion of HES right now. We have two of the classrooms, the old art and music room, because in order to rent this space for 3 nights a week for an 8-week rehearsal period is just not, it's not fiscally possible for a nonprofit group like us. It's just too expensive. So That's why we are asking for like classroom space to still be included in a plan for HES. Thanks.
Not if we go forward with this proposal is pretty much as you've seen. There can be tweaks to it, but we can't go back to the developer and say, this section of the building that you thought you were going to use, you can't.
I mean, on our section, do we make modifications for renting to companies or helping?
We do that at the expense of the senior center, and the one we have now is inadequate and is frankly a safety hazard. If you're familiar with it, there's, I think, 8 parking places there. We're seeing an average of 16, 17 seniors every day the senior center is open. And what that means is some of them park across the street at the Brainerd Memorial Library, which is fine with the library. My concern is that death march they take across 154 to get to the senior center is just not good. The property the senior center is on is only 1/3 of an acre. There's no room to expand parking. There's no room to expand the building.
Could you have designated spots for the seniors during senior center hours? You know, for parking?
For parking at current senior center or this proposal?
I mean, in front of on our section for the senior center.
Yeah, there'll certainly be handicap marked. That's a state requirement, at least a minimum. Parking during the day, I don't think will be a problem there. The tenant parking is around behind, for the apartments is around behind it, in that little L area. So there will still be plenty of parking. The front parking lot is still available for use for like the farmer's market or other events. All right, anyone else?
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I'm a resident of Higganum. And I want to start by thanking all of you here for your service and for your time. I know you all have full-time jobs that you worked all day at today, and I appreciate you spending your time here. I moved to this town in 2019, not originally from here, and the welcome that I received when I came here was amazing, and it helped me to feel excited about living here. I have 6 children in this town, in the school district, and I'm not a senior quite yet, so I represent kind of the other side of the population with young kids. And I can say that as a mom of young kids, this is really exciting to me because it makes me hopeful that my children will actually have activities and cultural events and opportunities to connect with other people of the town here, because for a long time there hasn't been that. So the idea of having space for a multi-generational community is really exciting. I'm also a licensed clinical social worker. I have almost 20 years of practice, and every study that's ever been done about the mental health benefits of community connection and connecting seniors with younger individuals is boundless. Every study that's ever been done on it is the same. It says it's a wonderful thing. And what I'll say about my experience in this town and the community is that I think this is a group of people who are extremely hardworking, and they care about families and their children. And most of all, there's a deep commitment to community here. And it's why I fell in love with the town. And I think that this does an amazing job of incorporating that spirit and doing what's best to move the town forward, even though it may feel scary. And so I really appreciate this. I feel excited. I feel excited that my kids are here and are hopefully going to be able to experience it, and that we'll continue to grow as a town and continue to welcome new people like me who I think bring good things to the town, like children. And again, I just thank you for your time. Thanks.
I want to let you all know owe a special round of thanks to her. She's the one who produced these slides for us. If you had to sit through the original slides we had, you wouldn't have made it past the first one. She did a great job at making them attractive and skinning down what was said on them. So again, thank you.
Neil Perrin. So, one thing I didn't, or a couple things. One thing I didn't address is where RAC markets. Who comes here? There's an individual that spoke earlier, question about that. If I remember correctly, you're from Killingworth and nobody gave you a hard time to move here when you did, right? The other thing is, I am looking around the room and I'm pretty much the only one that has interaction with the seniors Monday through Friday. So to say that housing is not wanted, I think what people had mentioned was they were concerned about low-income affordable housing, not senior housing. There's one senior that just recently moved out of town. She does ask me when the applications will be available. I explained to her they got to build it first. The seniors want to stay in town. They don't want to leave. Some of them are fortunate enough to live with their kids. And the death walk is pretty dangerous out there. I actually walk a lot of the seniors across the road so they don't get hit. I almost got hit with a Tesla. Fortunately, the state PD came out and they caught the lady and she got a very, very hefty fine. I implore everybody who is not familiar with the senior center, come down Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday around 11:30 and see what a nightmare it is. I do drive the senior van. There are days where I cannot pull in there. In the past 5 years, from what I'm aware of, nobody has approached the town with proposals to put something here. Nobody's knocking on the doors. Nobody's, trying to move in here. You got to start somewhere, and if you get seniors here, and a lot of people question why the Shad Shack is there, the museum. Well, if you have a museum there, and you have a playground there, and you got seniors there, it all comes together. So eventually, could be phase one. The town did vote down Rossi. You got to start somewhere, because if not, downtown's going to stay just like it is. We're going to lose out on property tax. We all know property tax, our mill rate will never go down. We deal with it. It's something that has to start here. Otherwise, there's going to be people bashing the first selectman, the zoning board of appeals, planning and zoning. You couldn't get it done. I fully support this, not because I drive the seniors, or I would love to move my mother over here. It's needed. And thank you to Bob, the selectmen, P&Z, land use, Mr. Kane, the students that are here on their summer break. This town needs to be welcoming and bring everybody together. There's so much stuff we have in common. If we just get rid of this bickering, this could be a better town than what it already is. So hopefully it passes. Oh, sorry, one more thing. With the theater group, if this passes, use the old senior center or the jail.
Yeah, we can make space for you in the jail. We'll even give you keys so you can get out, I promise.
We've performed at the jail actually,
I know.
twice. Rebecca Degnan, I'm the president of Blue Fire, also a Haddam resident and a former educator in our district for 20 years. I moved to Haddam with my husband in 2004, which is when I was initially hired by our middle school as a chorus teacher, taught choir for 10 years, and then got my master's in counseling, changed over to be a school counselor in our district at our middle school for 6 years. And then recently I've opened a private counseling practice in Killingworth. I'm very invested in these towns, in HK. I love our kids, I love our families, and I have firsthand seen how much of a difference, both in terms of community and mental health, the arts have done for our kids and for our families. And one of the things that we pride ourselves in at Blue Fire is that we go out of our way to collaborate with the fine arts departments throughout our building or throughout our town. So we make sure we schedule around their performances so we never conflict, so kids can do our shows and the school shows. We have an apprenticeship program where we train people. Many of them are kids and teens. We train them in an area of the arts that they're interested in, and then they take those skills that they don't learn anywhere else except from us, and they go and they become the stage managers for the school plays. They become the costumers. They become, a lot of them, the lead actors. pit orchestra performers. We do all areas of that. And we have a huge group of kids and families that have gone through our programs, and the towns benefit from that. It is really important that we continue to do this work and that we have a space. A performance space is not sufficient, and we have to pay $100 a day to use the auditorium, the cafetorium at HES. So it is not sufficient. We can't have our home there. We need a space dedicated to us that we can use day in and day out and do our programming. And with this proposal, that will be lost, and it's not just our loss. I want to make it very clear that it's our town's loss. It's our kids' loss. It's families' loss. We love our seniors. We actually would love to have a place where the seniors can move in, the senior center, senior housing, move into HES. We would love to do programmings with and for our seniors. We would love to bring the arts to you. We are not against that at all. We want our seniors there, but we only have 2 rooms, and that is all we need. We don't even need a performance space. There's other places we can rent to perform. We need our 2 rooms to bring our programming, to keep contributing to our community, to bring business into our communities, and that's going to be lost. And that is a massive, massive loss for our towns. So I really hope that people will vote no, and that we can then be invited to the table as part of the planning for how we can create this a community center where we can all work together to support our community. Thank you.
Art Collins again. I've been a number of times when I've gone up to the the senior citizen up there with my wife and I, and most of all the time we have to park over there in the library. And I remember this one particular time I'm going across, I hit the button of the light, I'm start walking, and this jerk comes whipping by. I mean speeding, I'm in violation. And of course I made some curses and other remarks which I can't repeat. But it is dangerous. With this place in here, it's going to be easy for senior citizens to go there, for the senior center, the 60 Club, and if you live there, then all you have to do is walk. And also, when you got the little playground there, you got the senior citizen over there on a nice day, they can get out there and sit around and watch the little boys and girls play, maybe big boys and girls play, and stuff like this, and the little kids can interact with the senior citizens, and that'd be nice. So anyways, I still support this once. Yes.
Yeah, honestly, part of our thought when we first got to this, of the mix of the senior center, senior housing, senior center, and playground, is there are a number of seniors who are also their routine daycare for their grandchildren. This gives them a place where that can be done.
Bob, can I just point, is this on?
Talk.
Is this on? Oh, it is. Cool. I just wanted to note something too. So I'm hearing the word community space used a lot right now. And I am sorry that this proposal displaces Blue Fire Company, Stage Company, and as Bob pointed out before, it's not to say that we won't have a future home for you. Right now we're definitely in limbo. We're shuffling around. The town has projects going on. The school district has projects going on. Right now we're in a high school that's so massively oversized and underpopulated that we would not get enough money from the state reimbursement to renovate it. So we're talking about community spaces, but we're a little disproportionate right now. We're meeting in the high school auditorium right now, which is not a Town of Haddam building. It's an RSD 17 building. We are at the mercy of scheduling this building, asking school workers to come in on summer vacation to host this for us, because we, the Town of Haddam, do not have a community meeting space big enough that can accommodate a large capacity of people with seating that has air conditioning. So one of the pros of this HES proposal is that, yes, the multipurpose room, the auditorium, or the cafetorium, whatever you want to call it, it gets renovated into a usable community meeting space. And people say they want to see downtown activity. Well, community spaces, right now we're here, it's 8 o'clock at night. Nighttime is when these kind of spaces get used. So I feel like that has gotten lost in the shuffle a little bit tonight. We're talking about community spaces, but really this proposal is a community space. It's a transformation, and it's shifting groups around a little bit, but that's part of evolution, that's part of change, and that's where we are right now. There is a lot happening, there's a lot potential for change, and that's why we keep having these information sessions, because as somebody mentioned before, it seems like every time we come to a meeting, there's new information available. And yes, as unfortunate as that can be sometimes, that's how these major construction projects work. They evolve, they change, negotiations change, options change, pricing changes. So at the end of the day, we are trying as hard as we can to get the information out in a timely manner. And that's where we're at. So I just wanted to touch on the use of community space. As I think Viv said before, there seems to be a lot of us versus them, when really at the end of the day, this is intended to be a community space for all town of Haddam people and groups and ages and so forth.
Step up to the mic, please, so it's recorded.
Just to respond, I really appreciate that. And I guess what we are also hoping is that if this is a yes, if the vote is yes, we would like to be part of the conversation. Because part of what makes this so difficult for us as an organization, as an active nonprofit organization in the towns, is that nobody has ever approached us to ask us, what do we see in our future, in the town's future? How can we contribute? How can we continue? So I would ask that if the vote is a yes, in the spirit of what you just said, which I appreciate, the follow through of that being, can we please be part of those conversations and not be, sort of the blindsided. Like, we feel very blindsided, and we have been following. We were at the very first meeting that Bill Warner had at HES during COVID. And we were there as part of those conversations where we heard tons of people say they want it to be a community center. And, so I'm just saying, we have followed all of the informational sessions. We've been at all the informational sessions. So it's not that we haven't made efforts, but we feel blindsided and we feel not communicated with. So moving forward, we would ask that we're part of the conversations about how we can continue to contribute to the community.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, fair ask.
So what is going to be in that wing that you guys are saying is going to be owned by the town? Do you know exactly what's going to be in there?
Okay, well, just a correction, the whole building will stay owned by the town. The wing, I know, I just want to make sure it's clear to everybody every time this is mentioned. The wing that, that's the wing we're talking about. This,
Well, it's better if you went back to the one where you had the lease with the blue and you saw the wing that we were going to have.
that's what I'm pointing out, because I can show you what the internal layout of that is, because Scott, I think that's what you're asking. If not, I'll go back to
Who's
the
that going to
slide.
use that space? What's that going to be used for?
Okay. This is the existing multipurpose room. This will be community center activities. The green space is a new senior center to replace the one we have. The blue space are office space for 2 town functions that are currently not co-located. The registrar, who is located in the fire station number 1, they are literally in a storage closet. One, I don't think it's the best location, but secondly, the fire department is needing more storage with more OSHA requirements. This will move them out of that storage closet down here. The second function is the state troopers, our resident state troopers. If you don't know, their office is in this building. It's not
at
centrally
high-
located, so this makes a more central location.
It's at the old high school right now, right?
Pardon me?
It's at the old high school right now, though.
Yeah, or this building. It's in the old middle school.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this building. I thought you were talking about that.
No, I'm sorry.
All right, so, and then what goes on with all the property that's different from that building? Like, there's more property outside of where RAC is gonna rent, right? Or
Correct.
lease, whatever you wanna call. So what are you gonna do with that property?
It's all going to be recreational use.
All the way out where you used to have the hay rides and all that stuff, all that is gonna be
You're way beyond me as far as time. The school property itself now is 9 acres. The 9 acres will be available, obviously, for the outside of the building and the parking lot footprints for recreation. There's also talk, we've talked about a BMX pump track being put on there, maybe a dog park, maybe a skate park. There are more opportunities back in that general area.
All right, so with that said, then what, I mean, like you talked about the housing and everything, what's gonna do
Correct.
for our taxes to make people like me that's single be able to afford to live here and not have to move within the next few years?
Well, this is,
We're gonna keep dumping money here and there, and
this will be affordable, deed-restricted, affordable senior housing. Once you restrict someone as affordable senior housing or through a lease agreement, that sets the maximum rent that can be charged. That doesn't mean everyone who wants to is going to be able to afford it, but it brings it down below the market rate right now. Is that what you're asking, Scott, taxes?
how this is gonna affect mine.
Well, this will bring in roughly $100,000 a year present value of tax revenue to the town. Will it make a huge difference in your bill? No, but we've been adding to the tax base with the other apartments, with the health center where it used to be Merit Engineering on Island Dock Road. There's been quite a lot of commercial style development in town to help spread the tax burden. But it's a good point, and it's something I usually mention when I talk about this, so I'll take advantage of the opportunity now. Keep in mind, this, going with the proposal here, is the least costly option that we've got right now to discuss. If we keep that building and eventually renovate all of it for whatever use we feel is appropriate, Antonazzi's estimate just to bring this building up to current code, this building being HES, up to current code, and replace the aging systems that are on the edge of failure, is $23 million. That's going to come out of your taxes in some way, shape, or form.
All right, so the other thing too is on Facebook, which you don't agree with or whatever, there's
Right.
been articles. So we're gonna pay $140,000 or whatever it was. Then we have to pay them $40,000 to use the space, right?
Where's the
Rack,
wait,
we're
wait,
paying RAC a certain
what
amount of money. Right? We have to
I'm just trying to clarify, Scott. Yes, we will pay RAC $140,000 for 10 years as basically as a development fee. They're producing for us, if we had to remodel this wing, we'd be spending easily $5 million. One estimate from Antonazzi is $10 million, so somewhere in that range. We will pay RAC $1.4 million to get that done, is one way to look at it.
And the other way to look at it, though, is you're gonna pay them, in 2.5 years, you're gonna have paid them back what they paid us.
Correct. But it's not,
2.5 years, so we're gonna lose out money for the rest of the years we're gonna be paying.
well, yes, we're gonna lose out money if we do nothing with that wing. If we change use on this building, which we have to do to use it, because it's not a school anymore, it's gotta be brought up to current code. Bringing it up to current code is gonna be millions of dollars.
So if you're gonna have a senior citizens, senior housing, everything there, would you move this, town nurse there?
We don't have a town nurse, Scott.
She's not in the bottom floor of that building anymore?
But, of the annex? No, we haven't had the town closed its public health function 2016-ish. We get all those services now from the CRAD, the Connecticut River Area Health District. So there's a social service worker in there, social department, in the annex behind the jail. That would stay there. She would stay there. That function would stay there.
Is there a chance that she could be moved to one of those rooms and Blue Fire Stage Company could get the whole bottom of that since we have the Little League in the upstairs?
Well, the upstairs in that building now isn't Little League entirely. I think Lions have some storage up there, but it's primarily the clothing lockers, what I call it, where people are donating used but wearable clothing, and you can go in and draw out of that.
And then what about where we have the town meetings now, the upstairs to that building? Is that available?
Upstairs to which?
Where we have the town meetings now, in the old stone building?
Okay, the upstairs of that? No, we own, that building ownership is split equally, and that's per square inch between the town and the Masons.
Oh.
Both groups have access to both parts of it. I don't think the town has ever used the second floor.
Right, and I've never seen anybody use it.
No, the Masons do use it. They meet like every Wednesday or something. They have.
But just once a week.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think there's more we can do for a Blue Fire Stage Company with the spaces we have available.
Well, it could be. We're going to have the existing community center. Are we going to need that for a community center anymore? Probably not. The existing senior center, if we move out, are we going to need that as a senior center? Probably not. Will there be other options that may come up? Certainly.
Okay.
And Bob, I just like to make a comment about relocating social services entirely. That was considered as an option, and it was actually requested for them to remain where they are. A lot of the services they provide, people who use their services would like some privacy and confidentiality, and locating a social services facility usage in the center of town does not really yield confidentiality or privacy. So that is the one major reason why social services will remain where they are.
But where I started to go with money, and let me point this out, keep in mind, this isn't the only, whatever we do with HES, renovation is going to have to happen, bringing up the code is going to have to happen sooner or later. Keep in mind, that's going to be happening in the same era where, and Kate, you may be more up on this than I am right now, but the last meeting I went to with the school district to talk about what their plan is for dealing with this building and all their other buildings, phase one of the plan, which focuses on the high school, it does some things in the other remaining schools, but the focus is the high school. Phase one was estimated at $164 million. The state will pay half if we're lucky, and we'll split the other $82 million, 60-40 with Killingworth. That's a couple of mills on your taxes right there. In addition to that, our town garage is decrepit. It was state-of-the-art. Unfortunately, it's the art of 1932 when it was built. It is not sufficient for what we need. Now, whether we just remodel it where it is on both sides of Depot Road, or whether we relocate it somewhere else in town, you're looking at, for remodeling, probably 5 to 7 million if we did it right away. If we relocate, you're looking at 7 to 10 or maybe 12 million, depending on what the site needs. These things are all coming up in the near future. There's the microphone, dear. I hate to do it to you, but I'm doing it to everybody else. And I'm lying. I'm not hating this, but I've got to pretend I am. Tim?
I have just one quick comment. Not to throw a monkey wrench in the plan. It's a great plan, as I said before, and not to rehash all of that. But one thing I did think about while I was sitting over there listening is at a previous meeting, we heard the registrar of voters. I think two of the fine ladies got up and said that they were a little bit taken aback that they were going to be relocated to this area. And my thought is, maybe they don't want to relocate, and maybe they could stay where they are, and maybe Blue Fire Stage Company could take those rooms that were going to be allocated for the registrar.
You're right. In this meeting, one of the registrars stood up and said she felt blindsided. Frankly, the word just hadn't filtered down, but I met with all of them, and we laid out what they would like to do if the registrars move here, is move the polling place to here. And what? And
You're meaning here.
right, yeah. That here, not here. to HES. And we talked about that. That's certainly doable. And with that, they were supportive of the move.
Great, thank you.
Would you explain how where number 2 is, where number 3 is, and I guess it's number 2 and 3, which are the old part of the building that's being renovated by RAC. We're paying them money, say the figure, I don't
1.4 million over 10 years.
1.4 million over 10 years. They are renovating that portion of the building. That 1.4 million over the 10 years is covering the renovation that they're doing on that part of the building.
And it's not covering their costs. They're estimating that'll be at least the $2.5 million, $4 million cost is what they gave me today, an estimate.
So
we're getting $4 million for a million.
You're not getting your money's worth. They're doing the work on that portion of the building that we don't have to spend money to do.
Correct. And that's part of my concern with some of the conversations you see on Facebook. The information may be true what they're saying, but it's not complete. No one that I have seen in a comment has pointed out that we would pay $4 to $5 million to renovate that space. We're not going to make that payment.
You post on Facebook, correct?
In reply to posts, yes.
And that's where a lot of the information is coming from.
Which information, Sharon?
Your latest post about paying the 140 and everything else. So people are seeing your figures and nodding.
Okay, I missed the nodding. It's a reference I don't understand.
The nodding, figuring and doing the math. So RAC is getting 1.4 million from us.
Correct.
Over 10 years.
Correct.
And they are in a position of making a tremendous amount of money. So they're not losing out by doing this.
No.
And if you did the total building, what is it, 12 million, 13 million that RAC is putting into the whole project?
They're estimating probably about 13 million. I think it'll be a little bit more, but yeah.
And that's including the grant.
Correct.
Okay, so that's not bad for them. They'll be making it.
They will, and they're a business. And you can't expect, they're a business, they're not a charity. I don't have a problem with a business making an honest profit.
Okay, good. I wish you'd include that a bit more about what they'll be making.
Well, most of the posts, I'm sorry, I shouldn't interrupt.
Yep.
Okay, most of the posts are talking about what a sweet deal RAC is getting.
And they are.
I don't know, they're getting a good deal. I don't know how sweet that is because I'm not in that business. But we advertise this and 300 companies receive our request for proposal. We had 3 replies. And I invite anybody, because there's been some information on Facebook about how the other 2 were better for us financially. I invite anyone to look at all 3 proposals. They've been on our website since April. Read what the proposals are asking for. One is asking, Heritage Housing is asking, for example, they talk about pilot program. If you're not familiar with that, that's an acronym. It's payment in lieu of taxes. And what they're requesting is about half the tax rate they would pay. Another one is asking for a tax abatement on a sliding scale. And there are other things in the proposal that the 5 of us who reviewed them all felt would be detrimental. So I would say anyone who starts talking about the other proposals being better, I would challenge them to say, that's fine. No, I'm not saying you are, Sharon. Then tell me which proposal you think is best.
Yeah. What I'm seeing is the town is going to end up paying $200,000 in the next 10 years for maintenance. I mean, if it's $50,000 just for the buildings, and then we're going to be maintaining the outside too.
Correct.
Plus the 140. I mean, it's going to be over probably 200,000 that we'll be putting into this. You know, the 100,000 we're doing right now with it just sitting there seems low. So, I mean, there, as a community center, if the town could do this and just do a community center and maintain it without a developer, I mean, I think that would be ideal for the community.
Well, it could be, but again, working the financials, that means we'd be on the hook for the roughly 20 million, 15 to 20 million.
But we just talked about 12 million.
That's RAC talking at private contractor prices. The estimate we got from Antonazzi for a government job, Sharon, please, I let you talk. The estimate we got from Antonazzi, a respected architectural firm, just to bring the building up to code and address the failing systems, was 23 million. I kind of feel that's high, but we'd be paying, I'm sure, even if we paid what RAC is proposing, that's $12 million out of the town's coffers. And we don't even have a developed use for the whole building. I mean, that's one of the first questions you're going to ask, should ask when you're looking at remodeling is, well, how much of the building do you want to use?
That's right.
Because if you're going to use 30,000 square feet instead of 40, you might as well lop off the other 10 so you're not heating and cooling them.
And that's right. I mean, the town could
We could.
downsize for a community
We could.
center.
And we could spend, and my concern is, and this is personal, we don't come to consensus readily. We spend a lot of time studying, restudying, arguing, re-arguing, and then starting the process all over again. We've done it for years with Rossi, should we buy it or not? We finally have made that commitment. We did it for years with Scoville, what's gonna happen? We can do it for years for this, but understand you're gonna pay a price for doing that. So I'm not saying, no, don't do that, but understand, again, the full financials. We are going to pay to maintain the grounds regardless of this proposal or if we keep it. There are costs. Pick which ones you want to spend.
And on that same note, RAC isn't asking for a tax break.
No, not at all.
They are going to be paying property tax on the part of the building they're leasing.
Correct.
Where if we were to spend $25 million, as just suggested, we collect no property tax and we're out $25 million.
Yeah, or 10 or 15, whatever it costs. Yes, that's very true. This would still not generate tax if it's total municipal use.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the maintenance costs would not go away.
Yeah. All right. We seem to be going over the same points a couple of times. Does anyone have any new questions or comments to add? Certainly, Leon. Go ahead.
Just in closing, as we get to the end of this plan, I just want to remind all the residents, owners of this project, meets the requirements of the POCD. It responds to the concerns of the citizens through all the comments, charrettes, and studies that we've done. And with our research, it meets the fiscal responsibility that we need to have as owners for this. And it allows us to maybe vacate some other areas and help, like Blue Fire, find other spaces. Nobody here is against that. It's just for this building to operate, we have to take care of the whole building. And finally, in closing, this town has 6,031 registered voters. And I urge everybody who gets to see this to come and vote. Yes or no, I don't really care, but I want you to come and vote. We don't get enough town participation here. And our last couple of referendums and so on, the voting turnout is very, very small. Please spread the word. Get everybody out and vote. It's a town ownership. We all own a piece of this thing. And we need to take responsibility for that and think about where we're going as we go into the future. I'm an old guy, and I've got younger generations that live in this town. And this is about where it's going in the next 30 or 40 years, not the next 5 or 10. And hopefully their generations after that will follow suit and help make Haddam a better place to live. But we have to take action. In absence of any other plan, this is the plan on the table that meets the requirements that the town put together through the POCD and through comments that we all voted for and supported. So hopefully we get a good vote turnout and a good response to the application we put forth with respect to HES. Thank you.
Again, the polling is Tuesday, the 23rd, at your normal voting location, 6 in the morning, 8 o'clock at night. Please come vote. Thank you all for coming.